Matt and Dave, I see that your video is off, and if you'll just keep your video off unless we need you to talk with the board if they would want to speak with you. Um, we are live streaming, so everyone knows if you'll keep your microphone off except for uh, when you're presenting.
Mr. Hampton, screen sharing is not enabled yet.
I'll do that when I stop
Understood.
sharing mine, but thank you for reminding me. Um, I you're going to share your own screen. Is that the for your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Good. I had forgotten you were going to do that. I'm running the slides for um, Dr. Bland and for Laura.
Yes, sir.
I'll do that. John, if you'll turn your video off and mute your mic unless you're presenting. And Dr. Bland, if you'll turn your there, thank you. Those of you just joining the Zoom, we are live streaming. So if you'll keep your video and audio off, unless you're presenting, thank you. Terry, if you'll turn your video off, except for when you're presenting. Thank you. We are live streaming, Dr. Powell Walker. Dr. Jadali, I've enabled screen sharing, so when it's your time to present, you can do that.
I am so cold, my hand. Anything new on the news?
Hello again.
Hey, Donna.
We are
It is.
streaming, Dr. Thurman.
Yes, and okay, we have a quorum. Welcome everyone, and I want to start by opening our meeting, our regular board meeting this evening. Board members, please make sure that you remember our norms, our board norms. And due to the concerns for public health and safety, the Ferguson-Florissant School District Board of Education will use Zoom, a video conferencing tool, in lieu of a face-to-face meeting. Since the meeting will be broadcast live on the district's YouTube channel, the board will read aloud public comments submitted via email in advance of the meeting. While all of the comments will be included in the board materials that evening and may be found under public comments, the board may limit the number of comments read aloud based on length or repetition. The board will not recognize public comments at the meeting other than those that have been submitted in advance. Under provisions of the public meeting law of the state of Missouri, the board must adopt a roll call vote, an agenda that includes the time, date, place, and tentative agenda for the meeting. A copy of the notice and agenda for this meeting was posted on Tuesday, November 10th, 2020 at the Administration Center, 8855 Dunn Road, Hazelwood, Missouri. At the same time, copies of the notice and agenda were sent to major radio and television stations, to 3 newspapers, to all municipalities, schools in the district, and posted on the district website. At this time, I have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Ebert,
Aye.
Mrs. Hogshead,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush,
Aye.
Dr. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Powell Walker,
I'm sorry, I was muted. Aye.
it's okay, Dr. Thurman.
Aye. First of all, I just want to say, as we start our meeting, I just want to acknowledge all of our veterans and say Happy Veterans Day. We appreciate everything that they have given to our country. And I just want to even shamelessly say to my dad, James Paulette, thank you for serving in the Korean War. He was a Marine, and also my brother, Jerome Paulette, who is Air Force. So you can also shamelessly plug anyone that you would like to plug at this time for a veteran for today. Board.
Well, this is Dr. Powell Walker, and I would like to acknowledge my father, Mr. Ural Cannon, who served in the Army.
I'd like to acknowledge my husband, Ken Hogshead, who was in Vietnam as in the Army.
I would like to acknowledge my mother, who is a Air Force vet.
Yay.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge my brother-in-law who was a Navy vet, and my dad and a host of uncles, and just want to acknowledge all the vets out there.
Okay, thank you. And now we will go into shared images of success.
As students, teachers, and staff across the Ferguson-Florissant School District adapt to the new norms due to the effects of COVID-19, success continues to thrive even in these unprecedented times. Duchesne staff took advantage of the Halloween madness by hosting a drive-through supply and treat Halloween parade. Over 150 families received school and classroom supplies, as well as treats from staff who were dressed in their favorite costumes. As part of their virtual science lesson on space units, 8th graders at STEAM Middle School were challenged with creating a model of the Earth, Sun, Moon system. They had to make an Oreo cookie model where they first had to create the moon phases, label them, and then arrange them as one might see the phases from Earth. This discovery learning is a necessary component of understanding why we have phases of the moon, but also in creating models themselves, with the placement of the sun being a critical component of understanding this system. Students at Berkeley Elementary are celebrating because they now have a great new place to play. For months, representatives from the Ferguson-Florissant School District, General Motors, and Kaboom, the nonprofit organization focused on ending play space inequity, have been working together to increase access to play spaces for local kids by creating
Ms.
a
Janice, can you let him know there's no video?
in October of this year.
Thank you.
Apologize for that. Let's. As students, teachers, and staff across the Ferguson-Florissant School District adapt to the new norms due to the effects of COVID-19, success continues to thrive even in these unprecedented times. Duchesne staff took advantage of the Halloween madness by hosting a drive-through supply and treat Halloween parade. Over 150 families received school and classroom supplies, as well as treats from staff who were dressed in their favorite costumes. As part of their virtual science lesson on space units, 8th graders at STEAM Middle School were challenged with creating a model of the Earth, Sun, Moon system. They had to make an Oreo cookie model where they first had to create the moon phases, label them, and then arrange them as one might see the phases from Earth. This discovery learning is a necessary component of understanding why we have phases of the moon, but also in creating models themselves, with the placement of the sun being a critical component of understanding this system. Students at Berkeley Elementary are celebrating because they now have a great new place to play. For months, representatives from the Ferguson-Florissant School District, General Motors, and Kaboom, the nonprofit organization focused on ending play space inequity, have been working together to increase access to play spaces for local kids by creating a new kid-designed playground installed in October of this year. The playground will give students an incredible place to play close to where they live and learn, an opportunity that is often hard to achieve. Berkeley Elementary School had not had playground equipment during the years the building was a middle school. The new playground design will address an urgent need by providing a broader range of play for children of all ages and abilities, and will be available when it is determined safe in light of the virus after we return to school. Thank you so much to our corporate partnership grant from Kaboom and General Motors for caring about our Berkeley learning community and providing this incredible play space. Be sure to follow us on social media to see more success stories from the Ferguson-Florissant School District.
Thank you. And now a report from the Missouri School Board Association.
give it another try here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of November. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the important work of school nurses during the COVID-19 pandemic. There are approximately 1,600 school nurses in school districts throughout the state, working every day to keep our students, teachers, and staff healthy so they can continue to teach and learn. Their work is especially important during the COVID-19 pandemic. The director of the Missouri Association of School Nurses, Linda Newman, tells MSBA COVID-19 has taken quite a toll on the social, emotional aspects of a lot of children, and it's often the school nurse that's first to recognize those issues.
When the children keep asking to come to the school nurse, what can seem like a simple headache or stomach ache to a teacher or another staff member, as the school nurse is able to see them one-on-one and kind of, start conversation and build trust, you often find other things that are going on at home. Maybe mom or dad have lost their job and there's increased stress at home. Maybe grandmother who lived in the home with them has passed away from COVID. There are just so many different factors right now.
Newman says school nurses are likely to be the designated people to conduct rapid testing for COVID-19 in school districts that choose to participate in the program. Newman adds school nurses are working with local health departments on contact tracing when COVID-19 cases arise. She also says school nurses are encouraging everyone to get a flu shot this fall. She says school nurses are encouraging students and families to stay vigilant by continuing to wear masks, wash hands frequently, and maintain social distancing. As you may know, state law now requires all school board members to not only receive training in their first year of service, but also 1 hour of refresher training for every subsequent year of board service. The training must include concepts covered in the initial training, plus the prevention of sexual abuse of children. The MSBA Leadership Development Committee now has added completion of the MSBA refresher training as a requirement for achieving advanced, master, and distinguished board member certification, as well as the governance team award. MSBA's immediate past president and chair of the Leadership Development Committee, Rhonda Gilstrap of Blue Springs, explains the new requirement for governance team recognition.
And in order for that to happen, all 7 board members of a particular board that is seeking out the governance award needs to have completed the additional hour of refresher training.
Visit the MSBA website for information on the various levels of board member certification, along with details on the governance team award. Does your school district have an emergency operations plan? Mo EOP is a new web-based application developed by MSBA Center for Education Safety by several school district safety personnel that will assist school staff responsible for emergency planning to create, store, and share school plans with school personnel and approved first responders. Bob Klossmeyer is an education safety coordinator with the Center for Education Safety.
Emergency operations planning can be a long and drawn-out process, ultimately concluding in an extensive and detailed document. Our team at CES recognizes this challenge and has launched an interactive web-based development tool designed to reduce the burden on schools, simplify EOP creation, and improve the overall safety climate for Missouri education.
The Center for Education Safety is conducting regional webinars about the new Mo EOP application and train subscribing schools on the use of this new tool designed to keep our schools as safe as possible. Filing for school board seats up for election in April opens on December 15th in most school districts in the state. MSBA will have updated free resources available to school board candidates posted on the MSBA website, including a candidate's legal guide to running for the school board and information on the roles and responsibilities of school boards. Filing for school board seats closes on January 19th. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
And before we go on, also let us do our Pledge of Allegiance as we recognize our veterans today.
Pledge allegiance. Should we just start?
You're gonna put the flag up?
Oh. I wasn't sure, Dr. Thurman.
I pledge
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of
America and to the
republic
for which
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and
and
justice.
justice for all.
Amen.
I love technology. Okay, public comments. The board allocates this portion of the meeting to allow stakeholders the opportunity to comment on both agenda items and non-agenda items. Due to the meeting being held via Zoom and live streamed on the district's YouTube channel, the board president will read aloud any comments that have previously been submitted. In keeping with the district policies 4054 and 4059 and personnel law, and any person submitting a comment should refrain from making negative comments that are personally identifiable. While the board will not directly respond to speakers during the public comments period, the board president may make clarifying remarks at the end of the comment session to correct any misstatement of facts. We did not have any comments today, no comments submitted. So let's move on to board strategic plan update. And this portion of the meeting is allocated for the board to provide an update of current activities and events in the district that may be of special interest to board members and the community. At this time, we will start with Mr. Ebert.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm on the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee. But first of all, I'd like to thank everybody and all the veterans. Years ago, I started calling all the veterans on Veterans Day on my on Veterans Day, you know, all the people in my life that I knew. And I found it ironic that, you know, how you do things and you're not sure how it affects other people. And I guess about 2 years ago, I missed one. And it's ironic that, you know, the person called me and said, you didn't call this year. So I guess I'd encourage everybody to reach out and just a quick little thank you, because it made this wonderful country what it is. And no matter what we feel about elections and what just happened in elections, you know, it's still a wonderful thing because there's so many countries that are so jealous of our process. It may not be perfect, but it's still pretty darn good. On the infrastructure, I'll just say the technology team, what can you say about them? I'm going to keep giving them kudos at every meeting. And then, of course, I encourage everybody to drive by Waterford and Parker. The old buildings are down, and can't wait to see the finished product. I don't know exactly what that'll look like, but that's exciting because that took many, many years to happen. And I salute Dr. Davis and his team for actually having it happen. I had so many community members, and myself included, that you know how things go. We all have good intentions, but we were scared to death that those buildings would just be sitting there boarded up and never down. So I really want to take my hat off to Dr. Davis and his team for seeing this all the way through. So that's all I have right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ebert. Dr. Martin.
Good evening, everyone. again, thank you for the veterans. I did tell the board, I look the way I do and apologize for yawning. I do have COVID, so COVID is real out there. And certainly tonight we're gonna be talking about reentry force update again. So certainly we see the numbers rising in our community, and certainly we remain virtual at this point. And so just want to put out there, that's why I look the way I do. And if I'm yawning, that's the reason why. So want to provide some updates specifically around academics. Healthy school, healthy community. Griffin Elementary is ordering their action supplies and plan for the PE stuff. We saw tonight Berkeley Elementary got their Kaboom playground area. So that is now up and out there. There's another option for investment of some of our surplus funds. So as you can imagine, as districts get surplus money, they invest it to try and make more money on the surplus money while they don't need to spend the money. And so there's another opportunity through a new thing through Ed Plus called Missouri Capital Asset Advantage Treasury. So that's another opportunity for the district to look at other quotes for rates of how to get more money for the money sitting in the bank, essentially. Tonight, where Dr. Parker's going to be talking about the reentry task force, and of course, food service is continuing to deliver meals and transportation's continuing to run. And so we'll continue to work and plan out those areas for when we do return back to school at some point. Also, along with HR, we're talking about something that has direct impact on money tonight, which is an early separation incentive plan. And so we'll be talking about that as well tonight. And lastly, Laura is working on the E part of the new strategic plan, and they'll be starting their first stakeholder meeting kickoff on November 16th. And just a shout out to Laura again for meeting and having great conversations about finance and continuing to see. Again, the big date to come up is January, February to see what collection rate was for taxes this year, which would be important for us to monitor to see where we are at. And we'll see if there's any additional federal money coming in through the government to make up for any of the lost money potentially from COVID pandemic related issues. So other than that, thank you. And thank you to Laura and her team for all their work.
Thank you, Dr. Martin, and I hope you get better real soon.
Thank you, thank you.
Ms. Hawkshead.
Thank you. I would also like to again, thank the veterans. And I want to reach out to the young people, the young adults, the young parents in the audience, and ask them to reach out to their own roots and find out where their loved ones, if they were in the service, and what they have gone through. As an older person, I wish I would have reached out more to my uncles and to other people, because it's a lot of history that we're losing. And there's been a lot of great people fight, and history is so important in how we live now and how we go forward. So I just want to mention that. I'm on the talent management committee, and one of our most talented people, I saw an email today or something that Mrs. Laura Madruzik is having an anniversary, or just had an anniversary of being with the district for 33 years. So Laura, thank you for your service all these years, and congratulations to Laura. Good job. Stick with us. So staff evaluations training has continued for all supervisors regarding the use of the Perform platform. All support staff will now be able to have digital evaluations complete by the spring. The Grow Your Own Teacher initiative continues to move forward with plans to create a robust pathway for students seeking to become educators. And recently, the GYO coordinating team met and learned about a new scholarship program with the University of Missouri, which will cover tuition and housing for qualified students meeting the Pell Grant eligibility. This will help to eliminate a significant financial barrier for our students. Dottie Graham, Human Resources Specialist and HR Core Data Lead, recently completed an Employee Abilities at Work certificate through the Society of Human Resource Management. Congratulations and good job. This certificate was focused on helping participants obtain a better framework to recruit and retain employees with difficult and different abilities, and will aid us in expanding our efforts to be more inclusive in our hiring practices. Congratulations again, Dottie, and thanks for always reaching out and trying to better yourself so that you can help our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hogshead. Ms. Tiffany Bush.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. Good evening. So my goal area is the Your Community piece, and this goal focuses on stakeholder and community engagement. And we're working hard to meaningfully engage our students, our staff, our families, and community, especially during virtual learning. So let's see. So over the past 3 weeks, The Culture, which is a church in Florissant, has provided a space and is offering tutoring to our FFSD students. This is not a district-sponsored activity. However, our Family and Community Engagement, or FACE department, has worked with Culture staff to make this opportunity available to our students. Let's see. The FACE department is exploring other tutoring opportunities and hope to share additional opportunities very soon. We've got OASIS volunteers have served FFSD's children through reading, tutoring for many years. We appreciate the volunteer service of our retired community members. OASIS tutoring has been on hold since March. Our FACE department and OASIS are developing plans and working through logistics to resume this valuable opportunity virtually. FFSD will be the first district in the area to begin virtual OASIS tutoring. Let's see, our mentor coordinators have developed a Friday speaker series for the students. The series features individuals who have experienced success in their field and are willing to share their journey to success with our students. Practical way. Our hope is that more students will take advantage of this opportunity. The FFSD Brothers Keeper Junior Group will begin virtual meetings at Halls Ferry this Thursday from 2:45 to 3:45. This is an exciting opportunity to expand our mentoring program with our younger students. How about that? And let's see. The strategic plan kickoff event will be Monday evening at 6 p.m. So we hope to see many of our stakeholders virtually as we share the process and hope to hear your hopes and dreams for the future of our district. This will be the beginning of a process that will culminate in a 5-year strategic plan to guide the district for the next 5 years and set a course for many years beyond that. This is just some of the ways that the Third Floor School District is connecting with our stakeholders. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Kevin Hampton. He is awesome to work with, very easy. And I just appreciate, everything he does and how easy he makes it for me. Thanks, Kev.
Thank you, Ms. Bush. Appreciate that. Dr. Courtney Graves.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My portion is understanding, which is also known as student achievement. First quarter report cards went out and parent-teacher conferences were conducted virtually. Many buildings utilized the new conference site to make scheduling easier for families. Second benchmark with Galileo began this week and will take place over the next few weeks. ANET met with stakeholder groups last week to further garner our current reality. This is still part of their data collection as they use the information along with our staff survey to determine next steps. A student survey will be given in much the same way as the staff survey was given in a virtual assembly style. Eureka Math has requested to showcase and use as a case study Ferguson-Florissant School District, our very own Adam Smith, and the work the teachers have been doing to fully implement this new curriculum resource. In addition, Re-Entry Task Force began meeting to design what in-person learning will look like when we return. CTE programs are increasing to provide opportunities to all students. We have the potential to have IB careers over at STEAM, which will align with NAF pathways and across all buildings. Other part I was going to talk about, Leslie already talked about in regards to the Grow Your Own. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that the Equity Committee met on Monday of this week, and we had guest speakers from Ford through Ferguson, and they were talking about the still separate, still unequal, and we got a very good in-depth look into that new piece of work and basically decided on some new charges for our group. And so we will be presenting again next December, for next month for our next board meeting, just to kind of give everyone an update on what the Equity Committee is doing and our new goals and initiatives for the 2021 year. So we are still always looking for new members to that committee, especially as we continue to do that ANET work. So for anyone in the district who wants another avenue or another platform to kind of talk about some of the things that they may be experiencing in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the community as well as in the district. So we welcome all new members. And we will also be having some marketing material that will be coming out too in January. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Graves, and thank you for your work with the Equity Committee. And I sit in on that Equity Committee with Dr. Graves, and it's always very informative. And I would also echo her invitation for anyone who would want to join the committee. It's hard work, but it's good work. So thank you so much for spearheading that and staying vigilant. I appreciate it. Dr. Powell Walker.
Good evening. My portion of the strategic plan is decorum, which also has to do with us maintaining quality schools, which allow our students to learn and our teachers to teach. Students grades 3 through 12 completed the school climate survey. The survey gains the perspective of students on the overall climate of schools within the district. The Student Expectation Code, the Student Expectation Code Committee held its third meeting. The focus of the meeting was to ground the committee in its collective purpose and to have some conversation around what the particular goals of the committee will be, as well as unpack the historical design of schools and mindsets related to behavior. Teachers district-wide were surveyed to gain their perspective regarding the effectiveness of care teams. This data will be examined in the newly developed design team to begin revisions to the process. 19 of 22 of our schools are referral-free, with the district having 11 referrals to date as compared to 7,808 referrals this time last year. 55% of these referrals are derived from Black students, with 45% of the referrals written for white students. And it is noted here that the referral types include cursing, profanity, and obscenities, some inappropriate conduct or speech, and refusal to comply. I also think it's important to note that, it is pleasing to see that the numbers are, drastically different than they were last year, but we are also functioning in a drastically different way from last year. So while it is pleasing to see that the numbers are down, my hope is that we will continue to see those decreases as we begin to think about that transition back into school when we feel it is appropriate to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Powell Walker. And thank you to the SEC, that is our Student Expectation Code Committee. Again, I sat in on this meeting this week, and I like the new way that we're going about looking at our SEC, and that we will end up having a document in place that is reflective of our concern of all students, for all students in our district, and that that it's not punitive, and that it is a restorative and a trauma-informed document. So thank you to the SEC committee and for all the work that you have done, you're continuing to do. And I look forward to seeing that final document. I would also like to just reiterate how much we appreciate our veterans. And I like what Ms. Hoggs had said about, and also Mr. Ebert, about going back and talking to those people who spent time in the service, who volunteered their time, who and who didn't have to, but they did. And they did it for us so that we can live the lives that we live here in the United States. So I do again want to say thank you to all the veterans. And if there are veterans out there who are listening, we appreciate you. We want to say thank you. And we know that we couldn't be sitting here today without your support and the things that you've sacrificed. And also for those families whose members did the ultimate sacrifice as veterans in the service. So I'd also like to say thank you to Laura Madruzik, and if we can give her a round of applause for 33 years of service. Laura, we really appreciate the hard work that you do. 33 years is not long enough, so we're not saying goodbye. So just in case someone's thinking that we are, we just want to say thank you. And I think we don't say enough to our staff how much we appreciate them. We have people in our district who've served more than 33 years in the district. We want to say thank you to you and everyone in our district, especially as we go through this pandemic. This has been a challenge. You know, we've gotten a lot of pushback about what we're doing, the decisions that we are making about going virtual. I don't regret the decisions that we've made. We've done it out of an abundance of caution and because we do care about each and every one of our students, as well as our staff, our teachers. You know, Dr. Martin, thank you for being transparent and sharing your condition right now. And we are praying for you that you and everyone who's been touched by COVID-19, we're praying for your complete recovery. And also that we can get through this pandemic and that we can get our kids back in school. That's the one thing that we want to do as a board. We want our students back on campus. Our teachers want that. Some people think that this virtual learning is so much easier than teachers going, back to the classroom, and that we're saving money and that we're being, well, I won't go into that long. But the bottom line is that if you really truly know the work that the teachers and the staff have to go through to do the best that they can for each one of our students, you would appreciate it. And also, I don't want to leave out our parents, our grandparents, our aunts, uncles, and everyone else who's lending a hand at home and from home. We understand that this is a very difficult situation for you. You're trying to balance your work, family issues, along with trying to support your child as they go through school, especially our primary, well, everybody, but our primary kids and our kindergartners who this would be their first year in school, our seniors where this would be their last year in school. There's so many situations that are different for each one of our family members. And we're just hoping and praying that we can get through this, and we will. We're strong. We're strong. We can get through this, and that we will be back in person as soon as possible. At this time, I'd like to say to each and everyone listening in to please stay safe, practice good hygiene, and please stay healthy. Okay, at this time, I'd like to acknowledge Ms. Kelly Ward from FFNEA. She's our president of our FFNEA.
Good evening. Greetings to the board and all of our Ferguson Florissant stakeholders. Abraham Lincoln once said, "Honor to soldiers and sailors everywhere who bravely bears his country's cause. Honor also to the citizens who care for his brothers in the field and service as he best can, the same cause." The FFNEA honors our teachers, educational support staff, administrators who have served in the armed forces. Happy Veterans Day. We thank you for your service and sacrifice. There is no doubt that these past months have proven that teachers and those who support teachers are superheroes. The ability to take on virtual learning at a sudden notice, face months of uncertainty, and still provide the academic, social learning to our students has not been easy. Some emotions our staff members are feeling right now are anxious, worried, overwhelmed. Some of the emotions are not new prior to the pandemic. Teachers and staff often express feeling overwhelmed and stressed whenever it may be from a lack of support, trying to meet the students' needs, the expectations of parents, and the balance of their personal life. Providing attentive care to the social, emotional needs of students is imperative and is equally important for the same care provided to teachers. Our teachers now need more than ever support and encouragement. Just as a child's emotions play a role in their ability to learn well, a teacher's emotions plays a role in their ability to teach well. Our emotional well-being affects our mental, physical, and our physical well-being. Our resilience in these uncertain times will be stronger if we are equipped to regulate our emotions and experience. Each day brings new challenges, and it is important for school leadership to be patient, especially with virtual learning and any technical issues that may rise, and have realistic expectations for the academic milestones students typically reach during normal circumstances. We must establish a shared vision, communicate virtual learning rules and guidelines to parents, students, and teachers, and create a positive and supportive climate. We must understand that every teacher will have different self-care strategies that will work for them. Take time to get to know your teachers and how you can encourage them to take time for themselves, especially when they are working from home. For when you're working from home, it's much more difficult to leave work at work. So it's important to encourage and offer support for a work-life balance. Administrators can encourage teachers to set hours when they are checking emails. They can model this by setting hours themselves and informing teachers of the hours they will no longer be checking emails. For example, these suggestions can be communicated with parents to avoid frustration when a teacher isn't replying to an email after 8 p.m. or over the weekend. As an administrator, you are also under the stress of balancing a regular school year responsibilities in addition to health and safety protocols, new health and safety protocols, while maintaining your own work-life balance. Being present with these emotions with your staff and your students being present for the emotional well-being of your staff and students may take a lot on your own emotional well-being. So remember to take time for self-care and be honest with your staff about how you're feeling. There will be good days, there will be bad days, and it is okay to cry. Always remember to be gentle with yourself and make sure you have a support system. When we look back at everything we've accomplished over the last 9 months, may we find strength for tomorrow. As always, I ask everyone to continue to be patient and extend empathy towards one another. Thank you for this time to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Ford, and thank you to FFNEA. Those are great words that were spoken today by Ms. Ward. Again, I want to say thank you to the staff, to our technology people, and also one group of people I forgot to thank, and that's our students. I want to say thank you to our students for what they're going through right now and their patience, and we're going to get through this. You guys going to be okay. Okay, Dr. Davis, Superintendent's report.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. First, I'll start by saying that we are grateful for all of our veterans, and I'm grateful personally for the services that you've rendered to our country. For those who've served in the military, I always say if I ever had to do it over, that would have been one thing I would have done differently. But I'm grateful for my father-in-law who served in the Vietnam War, who is a veteran, my uncles, and I'm just grateful to all the men and women who have fought for our country. And let me say that, we love our country and we will defend it till the end. And I'm grateful to be an American. So God bless America. Also, in thinking about our veterans, I also want to just recognize our essential workers during this very difficult time. Our healthcare workers, our teachers, those who support teachers, and our principals too. And I could go on and thank everybody, but I want to just call out two groups of people who sometimes don't get noticed because they have been doing a yeoman's job these last couple of months at trying to keep things going. And those are our bus drivers and our food service workers. They drive those buses every day and are delivering food, and our food service workers are preparing meals, and we don't realize how important food is. There's so many food insecurities in our community, and our folks have been working diligently, and I am grateful. And both those departments are led by Laura Madrusik, who has been here. She's been here, as we said, 33 years. But look, we have some great people. I could go on and name so many more, but I just wanted to call out those two groups because they get up every day and go after it. And I'm grateful for all of you, and particularly wanted to highlight them for a moment. Our staff, our students, and our families have been working hard in this virtual environment, and we know it's very difficult. Our teachers are giving it their all as they're delivering those quality lessons every day. The numbers of cases continues to spike, and we're seeing this locally, and we're also seeing it nationally. I shared a message to all of our staff and families this morning, reminding them of the importance of taking safety precautions. I cannot stress that enough. We cannot get back to normal without us doing our part. We have to wear masks. We have to practice social distancing. And we also have to practice good hand hygiene. We have added a COVID widget to our district homepage. So if you go to fergfloor.org, you'll see that there. The widget lists current COVID cases and quarantine numbers. And then there's also a link to more information, including the weekly updates that we get by zip code. We presented this data, of course, in our board meetings, but it is in a widget right now. If you were to go to our website, you can access that and then additional information through that hyperlink. I met last week with a group of our students to hear their concerns about COVID and its impact on their senior year and sports. And you'll hear more about that in just a little bit with another presentation. They did a great job. They are expressing themselves in ways that I'm so proud of as a father, to see these young men and women stand up and find their voice, and then to exercise it in a way that people will listen and will respond. And so for that, I'm proud of them, giving their perspective and listening to the data. Dr. Jadali presented some data to them as well, and they all responded. And again, I'm just so proud because this is a very difficult time. I have continued to meet at least weekly with our superintendent group from around our region regarding virtual learning, current COVID data, and factors related to students returning to our buildings. Districts across the region and even in our area are not taking a one-size-fits-all approach to returning to school buildings, but are basing their decisions on their local data, and we have to. Many districts in the region have that had returned in-person or hybrid learning may be considering another virtual option because of the spike in the infection rates. Let me say that we're all in this together, and we have to support each other through this process. I've said, and I'll continue to say, that we have to make decisions that are best for Ferguson-Florissant. And while we may have a neighboring district or a district in the region that is similar but doing something different, everyone has to do what they know is best for their communities. And we let the data drive those decision-making, that decision-making. We are also continuing our work with Achievement Network, ANET. As you all have mentioned in the past, the anti-bias and anti-racism work that we know is the other pandemic that we've been dealing with, and we're are facing that head on in a very methodical, thoughtful way. We're not rushing it, but it is a district initiative that will be widespread. We're not trying to do a one-size-fits-all. We're trying to do what we need to do for Ferguson-Florissant. Our work with ANET, as they have engaged us with staff members and small groups from across the district to assess our current state regarding equity. We had a very good implicit bias training last week, and our ANET Ferg Floor Change team will be meeting again tomorrow. We had a great opportunity for learning and advancing equity as we move forward in this work. So hats off to all of the folks who are contributing to this very important work. Just a couple more things here. I wanted to underscore again something that Ms. Bush said earlier. She shared that we will be having our kickoff for Strategic Plan 3.0 this Monday night. I hope that all of you, all the stakeholders who are listening out there in TV land, that you will join us as we begin this conversation about our collective hopes and dreams for the next 5 years and beyond for the Ferguson-Florissant School District. Mr. Ebert mentioned the tearing down of the building. There's so much that has happened that this board has led us through, from restructuring to combining resources and to being more efficient with the resources and the dollars that our taxpayers have entrusted us with. And we're proud of some of the moves that we've made, but we know there's still more work to do. In particular, the work around academic outcomes. Nothing is more important than making sure students are learning deeply and that they have the skills and can demonstrate those skills, whether it's on an exam or whether it's on some other kind of assessment, that they have the knowledge and skills to be successful in life. That's what every parent wants, and that's what we work hard to create, is a place where students can learn, and so can our adults. Even though we are experiencing very difficult times, I'm excited about the opportunities we have had in this experience. Virtual learning will be with us forever. And in fact, I'm going to coin a new term, and this may not make sense, but I'm going to call it education on demand, because we are in a new space and we have to adjust so that we can respond to the needs of our children, our community, and our families. I'm hopeful for the future, for greater opportunities for our students. I want all of them to take AP Calculus and make a 5, and I want all of them to be ready for an exciting future that's in front of them. So that is my report, Madam President. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. And I also would like to thank you, Dr. Davis, for the work that you are doing as leader in this district. This is not, being a superintendent is a very difficult job just in itself, but to be dealing with this pandemic and all the things that are going on with our district, we want to say, on behalf of the board, we want to thank you for the work that you do and for you continually being positive and upbeat and doing the hard work. So thank you. Thank you for the work that you do.
Happy to serve. Happy to serve. Thank you.
Declaration of candidacy, and this is for board information. The 3-year terms of Ferguson-Florissant board members Scott Ebert and Dr. Courtney Graves expires in April of 2021. Declaration of candidacy may be picked up in the office of the superintendent at 8855 Dunn Road, Hazelwood, Missouri, from 8:00 a.m. to 4 p.m. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, filing will be held by appointment only. The only exceptions are the first and last day of filing, when the office will be open. Requests for appointments can be made by phone 314-687-1912 or by sending an email to Heike Janis at hjanis@fergflor.org. When you come to file your candidacy, please wear a mask. If you do not have one, we will provide a mask. You will be asked to complete a COVID-19 screener before you come to the appointment. If you declare your candidacy on the first or last day of filing, you will be required to complete the COVID screener before entering the office. More information regarding the candidacy filing can be found on the district website and also in the lobby of the Administration Center at 8855 Dunn Road, Hazelwood, Missouri. Under Missouri law, the first day to file as a candidate is Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. Filing closes at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. School district offices will be closed Monday, December 21st, 2020 through Friday, January 1st, 2021. The annual election for the Board of Education is Tuesday, April 6th, 2021. A person who wishes to file for a candidacy for the Board of Education must be a citizen of the United States, at least 24 years old. I don't know how I got in. A resident taxpayer of the school district, a resident of the state of Missouri for at least 1 year. In addition, the candidate must follow these procedures: file a declaration of candidacy, filing pursuant to District Policy 4013. The Ferguson-Florissant School District Board election is in April 2021, will be conducted by cumulative voting, a change ordered by the federal court. In cumulative voting, voters can cast as many votes as there are seats on the board that are open. Voters are not limited to giving only one vote to a candidate. Instead, they can give their votes to one or more candidates. For instance, in this election, there are 2 board seats that are open. Voters can choose to give 1 vote to each different candidate or 2 votes to a single candidate. So a lot of information, but the candidacy, if you are wanting to file, again, it begins on December, what's the date?
15th.
15th. Thank you. Thank you. Consent agenda, and this is for board action. Board secretary.
Payroll teacher and non-teacher, $8,836,968.35. Operational disbursement, $1,794,48, for a grand total of $10,633,762.83.
Thank you. Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ebert,
Aye.
Mrs. Hogshead,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush,
Aye.
Dr. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Powell Walker,
Aye.
Dr. Thurman.
Aye. At this time, we will have Dr. Bland, and she will be discussing our athletics and activities return to play timeline.
Good evening, board. And Dr. Martin, I wish you a speedy recovery. I'd also like to thank all the veterans, including my husband, late brother, and uncle for their service. I'd also like to have Mr. Combis, our athletic coordinator, and the athletic directors, Mr. Grogan, Mr. Rhodes, and Mr. Kastrup. I'm asking that they join us at this time for the presentation. All right. So tonight I will be sharing proposed options for winter athletics in Ferguson-Florissant School District. First, however, I am going to ask Dr. Jadali to share data regarding COVID cases in the area.
I do want to remind the board that this is for board action.
Good evening, Board of Education. This evening, I will be sharing 3 metrics related to analysis of COVID-19 pandemic in our district. Those 3 metrics are rate of test positivity, which is percentage of positive tests, 7-day average new cases rates, and transmission rate, which refers to the number of new cases of COVID that will result from each existing case. A transmission rate greater than 1 indicates that there will be an increase in the rate of new cases. We will compare data from the state of Missouri, St. Louis County, and zip codes serviced by Ferguson-Florissant School District. This slide displays the transmission rates specific to the greater St. Louis region. The initial transmission rate of 3.38 is reflected to the transmissions before intervention was put in place regionally. While the rates held steady for several weeks at just over 1, the transmission has risen to 1.17 over the past 2 weeks. This indicates that each positive case will result in 1.17 new cases, or 100 new cases will result in 117 new cases, and the number of new cases will continue to increase over time. This graph displays the daily percentage of tests taken that have had a COVID positive results in San Luis County, calculated by using all tests performed on a given date as the denominator and positive test outcomes as the numerator. Positivity rates have risen throughout October, with a current positivity rate of 14.3%. Data which you are viewing is driven from San Luis Educational Task Force. This is the percentage of positive tests in total, rather than the percentage of positive tests per day. And this reflects the percentage of positive tests since February. We can see that FFSD comes in as tied for the highest in positive tests among many of our neighboring districts. Beginning July 1st, the Harvard Global Health Institute launched a key matrix for COVID suppression framework to provide clear guidance about how to target and suppress COVID-19. HGHI guidance is based on the normalized matrix of 7-day rolling average of daily new cases per 100,000 people. This is also the guidance currently endorsed by Education Plus. According to HGHI guidance, the daily new cases less than 1 people indicates a risk level of green and on track for containment. An average of 1 to 9 new cases daily indicates a yellow risk level where community spread is occurring. When the average daily new cases reaches between 10 to 24 daily, the risk level is orange with the accelerated spread, and at this level, stay-at-home orders are advised. An average of 25 or more new cases daily indicates a red risk level where stay-at-home orders are necessary. This graph displays the 7-day rolling average of new cases per 100,000 people applied to the 10 zip codes served by Ferguson-Florissant School District. Risk levels are indicated by the background color in the graph, with FFSD denoted in the graph by the blue line. New case rates have been steadily increasing in FFSD zip codes since mid-September. As of November 8, new case rates have reached 39.4, nearly equaling our peak numbers of new cases in the late July. This table shows the 7-day average of new cases per 100,000 in each zip code served by FFSD for the last 2 weeks. And the percentage changes as well in this last column. 9 of our 10 zip code served by the FFSD currently have 7-day average new cases rates in the red risk level, indicating critical spread. One has 7-day average new rates in the orange risk level, indicating accelerated spread. 8 zip codes show rate of increase in the new cases greater than 10%, which indicates the highest risk of transmission in our schools. New case rate in FFSD has increased from 30.8 to over 39, which is a 28% increase in the past week. The transmission rate is 1.17, and positivity rate has increased to 14.3. New case rates place FFSD in the red risk level, with a transmission rate indicating a continuation of the spread. To recap, I shared transmission rate data, and I referred to the number of new cases of COVID that will result from each existing case. Also noted that the transmission rate greater than 1 indicates that there will be an increase in the rate of new cases, and COVID will continue to spread quickly. Also talked about positivity rate and was referred to the percentage of positive tests relative to the number of tests performed. In addition, new case rates were explained and measured as a 7-day average of new cases scaled to a rate of cases per 100,000 people. I will conclude my presentation with the following statement. Case rates, positivity rate, and transmission rate have all increased over the past several weeks. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may like.
I don't have a necessary question about this as much as how it would tie to the data of athletics particularly. So I don't know, my questions might come more once we go through the activity update options, but overall, obviously the data is climbing, but yes, I guess I don't really have a question yet until I see the rest of the presentation.
Yes.
Dr. Bland's going to do the presentation now, and then hopefully they'll answer some of it.
Thank you, Dr. Jabali. We have worked collaboratively to develop a re-entry options for the winter season. This also included Dr. Davis and other administrators meeting with student athletes. Some of the feedback we received were as follows. This is the last opportunity for seniors to share film with colleges and earn scholarships. Student athletes asked to be held accountable for following safety protocols. It helps with the overall social emotional well-being of students. Attachment to sports may improve students' academic performance, and it may allow gradual entry back into the schools. One student also stated, I want to play sports and I also want my family safe. St. Louis County Health Department of Health Youth Sports Guidelines is allowing moderate level contact sports to compete with other schools in our region and has requested each district to submit a return to play plan. Ferguson-Florissant School District will be submitting a return to play plan to St. Louis County with recommendations and safety precautions for athletics. We recognize if we continue to experience an increase in cases in St. Louis County and or within our district, we may not be able to begin practices or competitions. Slide 2. So there is the fall, winter, and spring athletic season. Districts had an option to delay the fall season and begin it in March. Some districts started their fall season in August. The winter season for the state of Missouri started November 2nd. However, athletics in Ferguson-Florissant School District have not started. The spring season is also scheduled to start March 1st, which overlaps somewhat with the alternate fall season. And moving to the next slide. The information on slide 3 is from the 2019-20 school year. We anticipate participation of athletes to be lower than this school year. We are planning for approximately 500 students, but we know numbers may be lower due to various circumstances. We also have 54 coaches slated for the winter season. Thank you. The next slide, please. I am sharing with you now the start dates for districts in the St. Louis metro area. The dates may change based on various data points. Of the 6 neighboring districts to Ferguson-Florissant School District, 2 districts are planning to start in January. 2 districts started on November 2nd, and 2 districts are planning to start mid-November. Okay, next slide. So again, the purpose of this presentation is to share proposed options for our winter season. Each timeline includes steps to ensure safety for our athletes and staff. Each option would allow athletes varied amount of times to play in light of ever-changing COVID cases. For all the timelines, we will begin preparing facilities on November 12th. During the window of November 23rd through 27th, coaches will be required to complete training that provides specific expectations related to COVID-19. Coaches and athletic directors will lead parent sessions November 30th through December 4th. In addition to what I have just described, each option allows 14 practice days, which is a requirement for the Missouri High School Athletic Association. In option 1, practices will start December 7th, and games could begin as early as December 22nd. This will allow our athletes to participate in 6 to 9 weeks of competition. In option 2, practices will start January 2nd, and games could begin as early as January 18th. This would allow athletes to participate in 3 to 5 weeks of competition. And option 3. In option 3, practice will start January 18th and games could begin February 2nd. This would allow athletes to participate in 1 to 3 weeks of competition. Please note, it would be very difficult to have many, if any, competitions for wrestling or swimming in option 3 because their season ends mid-February. Again, if the numbers in our region continue to rise, it is possible that St. Louis County could choose to suspend athletics or require more restrictions. Next slide. Safety guidelines were developed from the guidance of the St. Louis County Health Department. In order to minimize the amount of time students are on buses together in larger groups, transportation would be provided to athletes to and from games only. Parents would be required to provide transportation to practices. Coaches, students, staff, and school personnel will be required to wear masks at all times. Athletes may remove masks when they are playing only. Hand sanitizing stations will be placed in all gymnasiums for use. Coaches will be trained to sanitize equipment regularly, and custodians will clean areas after each practice. Spectators will not be allowed to attend practices and games. However, we will provide live streaming for home games. A COVID screener will be completed by every athlete, coach, officials, and school personnel. Also, visiting schools are also required to complete screeners. And so again, I'm sharing with you the options for your review, which is also more specific details in our plan to play plan. At this time, I'm going to ask John Combis to share a message from athletic directors.
Thank you, Dr. Bland. As athletic directors, we want our students to participate in athletics, but we cannot overlook the COVID data in our region. We will fully support any decision made by the board, and we will work to provide the best opportunity for our students to participate in athletic safety.
I am hopeful the information shared will assist you with determining the reentry option for the winter season. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, board. So what is your recommendation? We need to make a motion, and I know there are 3 options up there. So
we didn't, we had have three options up there for the board to consider, and Lisa may want to give us some guidance around how to navigate this part of it. Option 3 was what we were doing, period. So that's sort of the default. And students wouldn't start until we went back to school, which is in third quarter. However, we know we've been getting, I have and you have questions from students and others. And so I know some board members have asked me questions about it as well. So we wanted to bring the board as much information as we could. We met with students, talking with them. You know, even when we met, the cases were rising, but they are just spiking at this point. So what I think is fair is for the board to, you know, consider the three options, consider the data, and then to make a decision. And so I guess, Lisa, the point that I'm trying to make here is normally a recommendation comes and then the board has, you know, questions and so forth to, you know, deliberate and then to act on that recommendation or that motion. There are three options here. And so I'm not sure if the board's ready to say which one of the three they want to choose yet until they ask some of those questions or get some of those answers before going to recommending or making a motion to go option 1, 2, or 3.
Maybe we can just make a motion to make a decision on one of the three options, or at least, oh, hi, Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, you could do it two ways. You can have some discussion first, or if there's a board member that already has a feeling as to which option they would like to pursue, and that board member can go ahead and make a motion for that option. And if seconded, then you can have discussion and either that one will succeed or fail.
Okay. Do we have any motions from any board members?
I make a motion for option, which one is it, 3, that we do it when we come back to school?
Do I hear a second on that? Leslie, you're on mute.
Okay. Scott, can you, I understood option 3, but can you tell me what your motion, because then
I thought option 3 was we just do it when we attend school, when school's back to normal or whatever.
So he's just asking that we do a motion on option 3. So we need a second.
But what I'm confused about is an option 3 that January 18th is when they start practice even before that? Can
you put the options back up, Dr. Bland? Please, thank you.
Yeah.
So Leslie, option 3 is what, and to all the board members, what we would have done had we not been having this conversation. And so that's option 3, sort of the default. If no action is taken, that's what we're going to do. But I know this has come up to board members. Option 2 gives students an opportunity to play a little bit more than they would have in option 3, which means that practice would start January 2nd versus January 18th. And then option 1 would bring them in even earlier and allow them to start practicing right after Thanksgiving. December 7th is that date. So option 1 gives more time to play, option 2 a little less, option 3 a little less in terms of athletes actually participating in the sports competitions.
Okay, so if we go with option 3 and in January it's still as bad as it is now, then are we bound that we have to go ahead with that plan?
No, ma'am. I mean, just like with you know, us returning third quarter, what the board voted on back on October 14th was that we would remain virtual for second quarter and then make a decision before third quarter about what the next step looked like we did for first quarter to second. So it would be essentially the same thing that, you know, going with that option, we would get closer, look at data, and then make a decision from there.
Okay, since we have a motion on the floor, I'm sorry.
I second his motion. I understand it.
Okay. So now it's discussion time.
I'll just say the reason I made that motion is really just for the safety of everyone. Although I know it's tragic, and I understand missing things, even in my family. We missed 2 senior years last year. But to me, nothing trumps life, and that's really it. One death is too many. Sorry, that's how I feel.
I think for me, I agree with everything you just said, Scott. I think that the struggle that I'm having is I really want us to be able to give students and their parents some information about what now, meaning, what do we know about how the NCAA is responding to this? What do we know about what the NJCAA? I feel like if people knew that students were going to receive some sort of concession or some sort of extra something, in spite of this, because I think right now everybody's really anxious because they don't have enough information. And we probably can't get that tonight, but that's as a parent of a 2020 grad who plays basketball, we lost out on a lot of opportunities in the last quarter of the year. But I would rather have had him safe, and alive, obviously. But I can really relate to our parents. It's a difficult space to be in because sometimes you have a kid and this is all they've ever wanted to do. They always wanted to play their sport in college. So for me, I guess I'm still undecided because I don't feel like, I feel like if I have to say no and not give students and parents what they want, I feel better doing that, being able to say, but here's some information we have about, how this blow isn't going to be as bad as you thought it was going to be. And so I guess for me, I just don't feel like I have enough information, but I know if we have to make a decision tonight, we will do that. But I just wanted to put that out there.
I was going to if any of the coaches can, I'm sorry, if any of the coaches has any, I know I put some feelers out there because we had this offline conversation before about NCAA and any concessions that are being made for athletes. I know that many schools have, taken a look at ACTs and relaxed some of that when kids were going into their freshman year, this current year. Some students are taking gap years. I don't know if any of the coaches has any input there yet. I haven't gotten any kind of feedback yet to my questions that I put out there. But I don't know if you guys have or ladies have any kind of information that would at least, respond to our NCAA or the junior colleges looking at, making concessions for students because of the COVID crisis that we're in.
So what I can say is we have discussed this possibility in our athletic directors meetings. Depending on what the decision is tonight, the athletic directors will move full force in whatever direction to support students. So if that is that we cannot play until January, we will be working with local colleges and recruiting teams to try and support students as much as possible. If the vote is to start December 7th, we will move forward to start practices on that day. So whatever the board decides, we'll be ready for that action to support our families.
But that does not help us to know whether or not do we have anything about what the NCAA, how they're responding or what they're saying? Have we heard anything from them?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. I just want, I'm appreciative of the fact that you are planning to move forward in support of our student athletes, in support of whatever the board decides. But my question just really has to do with whether athletic directors have done any research around connecting with the NCAA or the NJCAA to say, hey, we got these athletes who are interested in playing. What's gonna happen? Are there gonna be concessions for students? That sort of thing. So has anybody done any of that kind of research that we can share with families tonight?
Yeah. So I have done some of that research. I reached out and a coach connected me to 2 other schools, one junior college in the area, and 2 Division II schools. And so they are recruiting. And so it's really about the recruitment process more so than anything. And most 11 seniors by now, if they have not received an offer, these are critical times for them to provide film to get out to various schools. And so the basketball, if we move towards the third option, the basketball players may have somewhat of a window to provide film. However, the other teams, we were concerned about giving them an opportunity to compete because their season ends so early already.
Right.
Well, I appreciate that. I guess I just have that concern. So are you saying that with option 1 or 2, that will allow our seniors to acquire some film this year?
More time to acquire some film and hopefully have more of an opportunity for recruitment. We can't guarantee recruitment, but have more of an opportunity.
And I think that's all kids are looking for, is an opportunity. So this is to the athletic director. So do we have Huddle or some other account that we use to support students with recruitment? Kids already have Huddle accounts and film is uploaded to that and they can send those links to coaches, or how is that piece being handled?
Good evening. This is Keith Rhodes. And the schools, we do have Huddle, and all athletes do have the opportunity to use Huddle and send film. Considering the fact that many of them are seniors and juniors that may not have had the time last year because other seniors that were able to shine more were getting that time. And so now they would basically be needing the film for this year where they can use that time to shine themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Bush?
No, that was good. I appreciate Dr. Paul Walker's question, because that was something that was really just bugging me. Is how are we able to get enough time for our seniors to be able to, send their film and just opportunities for recruitment. But however, out of an abundance of caution, I understand. I see the spike in the numbers. That makes me nervous, and I'm a little torn right now. I think I understand the third option. I want to know if we went with, and the only reason I'm bringing up the second option is just for the more time for the, just for the filming purposes and for recruitment. If we did that, how, let's just say we're at 10.7 or whatever the numbers were Dr. Jadali presented, but should they explode to like 12 or something like that, can we pull back and say, hey, wait a minute, this looks we're going to have to push this out a little further. It's not going to work. We can't start our practices right now because it's getting really out of hand. And I just want to make sure we can pull back off of that and that we're not stuck and, push it out later.
I'm thinking that we can do that for every option. Maybe we need to make that as part of the motion, just to make sure that people understand that all of this is based on the numbers.
Does that mess with the scheduling at all? How does that, are we able to, I'm just wondering about, our scheduling with other teams and how that'll all be worked out.
So are you saying if we get started, can we pull back and just say we're going to cancel games?
Or I guess that's what we'll do, or we'll move them back, or I'm not sure how that will work out, but that is a concern I'm having right now.
So at this time, we have canceled any games that we had planned, and we were waiting to get a recommendation before we scheduled out any
games moving forward. So we have not scheduled yet. We're waiting
We started a schedule and then we pulled back. And so now we are waiting before.
But we're just saying too, even if we schedule those games, we can still pull out. I mean, that needs to be on the table in terms of whatever decision we go with.
And so we could pull out, we just have to make sure, I don't want to say definitely everyone will have specific criteria for pulling out. So when we do schedule, we'll make sure that we can definitely pull out and what is our window of time we have to pull out. So we definitely will make sure that is asked when we're scheduling. And coaches, if you have some other thoughts.
I do have
Dr. Martin. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Martin.
So certainly I understand the reality of the virus is real and certainly makes us nervous. I also look at the well-being, not only the college recruitment side, that is important, but that is not, I look at the social, emotional, mental well-being of some of our students who thrive off of athletics. This is what brings them to school and this is what builds their connection to our school community. And I guess my question or wonder would be, is there a way to even start practices and not start games till January 18th? Because bringing them back even as small team members allows them some of that stability mental health wise to get back without opening up the risk as much. Of course, it's a risk anytime we bring anyone back, but for some of our students to come back and be in the pool again, or to be on the court, or to be wherever again, practicing safely could be a make or break in these winter months ahead, which are sometimes very dark and gloomy to begin with kids, and give them a sense of safety and precaution, and without putting us even at further risk by playing other teams until January. So I would wonder if there's a way. It seems like all the options have the first 3 bullet points are the same, regardless of which option we go forward with. The December 7th, I feel like I personally like that number, at least because that would put us through Thanksgiving. So anyone who may have been in contact with someone over Thanksgiving would have shown symptoms by then based on current data of COVID. But not starting games until January 18th or later is appealing to me because it puts us past the next holiday that we traditionally see a lot of people together, but still giving our students a chance to practice and be part of a team where maybe we could take a break from the holiday time of not practicing again, resume after kind of the next major holiday. And still, because I know there's, I believe, being a former coach, believe it or not, there's 15 practices you have to have, 14 practices before you can technically play. So that would still give us some opportunities so we're not missing out. But my concern is really the well-being of our children and students in the district of being connected and just being on that court safely. And certainly I know we have to look at the data and make decisions, but also, you know, if there's no way we can bring back a team safely, there's no way we can bring back almost 11,000 students to our school safely. And so if we have student athletes and coaches that are willing to put safety precautions in place and willing to do their part, and maybe just practice again, I do wonder what is the benefit for them mental health wise and well-being wise to get back and just practice, not necessarily participate in sports. So I personally am leaning towards not necessarily one of these recommendations, but a myriad of some of saying, let's maybe bring them back to practice December 7th, take a break over winter break and start maybe games January 18th or later, but at least getting them back and giving all sports, because my fear is with option 3, you're eliminating almost 2 sports altogether from and of course we don't have all the data per se, but swimming could be a very independent sport that does not involve, I can see wrestling being of concern. You're in someone's face. It's hard to control, but swimming, I could see you could do it more safely than others. And I just get into this, how do you determine which kids could have potential film or records over others? Do we need to look at a myriad of options, but also understanding the full safety and well-being? But I do think, I don't know if we have any data out there on the well-being or mental health of our student athletes. Of course, academics are more important, but certainly just throwing that point out there as well.
So Kevin, I don't disagree with what you're saying, other than the fact that the one thing we're trying to achieve is, we always talk about equity, and you're talking about mental, and the mental effects, and I don't disagree. But where do we start and end? I mean, isn't that the same for the academic teams and the robotics teams and the band and music? I mean, I just don't see this as equitable. I just don't. And I see it as dangerous. Again, are we willing to face the fact that we could kill someone here? And that's how serious I take it. Life is about balance and challenges and things like that. But when it comes to life and death situations, I think that really supersedes just about everything. But as far as the mental aspect and the anguish, I think we're all going through that. But where do you start and stop with that? That could be clubs, that could be cheerleading, that could be dance, it could be everything that you could throw in that, not just sports. So that's.
Mr. Ebert, so are what you're saying is, well, let me make sure that this is what I'm understanding. What you're saying is we're talking about sports, but we are not, the equitable thing is that we're not including other clubs,
yes,
like band and other things like that, because they're wanting to come back as well.
Yes.
Kids can get scholarships through band and through
exactly.
other clubs as well. And so are we being fair by allowing kids who are in the active sports to come back, but not allowing kids who are maybe in other clubs not to be able to come back?
The reason I picked option 3 is because we would be back in school. So that would mean everybody would be back, meaning the bands would start up, the robotics teams would start up, everything. You could bring it all, and it'd be so equitable for everybody, and safe if we're back. But I mean, if we start picking and choosing, even what Kevin said, I agree with him about swimming, but then what if you're a wrestler and you are like thinking, well, I know I can do this safely, even though, so it's just so many gray areas that I tend to lean on the side of safety, more than anything. But you got me right, Donna. That's what I was kind of saying, equity wise.
I think Scott is making a valid point. I didn't even think about that when we started that topic. Because my thing is, I think a lot of the students will be like, well, if they can come back for basketball, why can't the chess club come back? Why can't? And though then we are really opening an additional can of worms. And then we will be making that decision. Okay, is this group better than the other group? And what makes this group more important? I think that is a valid point that you just made, Scott, and I appreciate that. One question I did have is that, did we even poll the student athletes to see if they would be willing to come back? Because if we had a team that had 20 people and they only got 5 that would actually come back, is it even worth the conversation? So I was just wondering, did we even poll the students or families to see if they would even bring them back for sports?
So there wasn't a poll from my office, but what I can tell you is that, and Dr. Bland can probably speak to this a little bit better than I can, but in meeting with the students we met with last week, I know that they started a petition and had other students signing on, which I'm sure the parents are supporting it. My guess, my educated guess, I think would be that the majority of them feel like they could do it. So they are, as they said, they want to get back in there, but I totally hear everything that's being said.
And the coaches, is that, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
And the coaching actual position, is that volunteered or that's contracted? Like, do we actually, do coaches have to come back if we are setting that up? Or was that like really a volunteer position and they signed it up for additional pay for those pieces?
No, so if you remember back, that's a great question. We don't have any, so we have in our coaching contract a clause because of COVID that so no contract is being exercised at this time because we don't have any activities going on. But if we do, then we would have to, because this is, I mean, you have to pay the folks, the adults, to come in and do that work. So absolutely, it not only has implications for mitigation and all those things, it also has certainly financial implications as well, because we got to pay folks to come in and do the work.
But what if I'm hearing Courtney right? I mean, if I'm the basketball coach and I have been the basketball coach for 10 years, but I really don't want to come in and be the basketball coach because I'm concerned about COVID, catching it or whatever. Am I going to lose my position as the basketball coach? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly what I was saying, Leslie. Like, I mean, with teachers and others, when we go back, everybody has to go back. But to me, this seems more like it's with those particular positions, that's like, hey, I can decide on not going back. And then where do we even stand with that?
I mean, and Philip can get into the particulars, but I wouldn't want to penalize someone in this environment for any of that kind of stuff, right? I think it's important that we move forward with caution with all of it. So it's, and so we look at each case and decide based on, and John is our lead athletic person, if there was a position where we didn't have a particular coach, could we find a coach? Because we'd have to pay them if they wanted to do it. But if somebody didn't want, because of, someone could have a pre-existing condition that they couldn't. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to consider all that. And so it's precarious because there's so many moving parts. Mm-hmm. And let me say this again, that, I'm bringing this to the board because the default was option 3, period. That's what we were going to do anyway. And I said to the students the same thing, like, I'll listen to you. I'm not even telling you I won't agree with you. I may not. I'll at least listen to you because I want you to have your voice. But also, I have to make recommendations to the board that I think is in the best interest of this district, not just 1 or 2 or 3 or a few people. So if the board does nothing, we're going to do option 3. Let me say that again. But option 3 is there as sort of the default. So, I want them playing, but I want them safe first. So,
Courtney, to your question, I just got a text, and I won't say who from, but from a coach saying that if we open it up, they won't coach. So that's going to be a problem too. And I know this person; they're a very excellent coach.
I don't think it has anything to do with how good a coach they are.
No,
I know you're not saying that, Leslie, but I truly understand. I truly do understand.
I have a question for the coaches, and that is there? And again, it's bringing people back into the gym area, but is there any way of taking one-on-one pictures of some of these for whatever you called the, pooey, my brain went dead.
The film.
Yeah, the film for them showing the colleges. I mean, does it have to be in a game? Can it be a forward and in basketball and a guard playing against each other and showing their moves?
Again, this is Keith Rhodes again. And colleges are giving athletes thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to play for them. And they are very particular with the type of athletes that they are wanting. And so they are really not going to be willing to take a chance on an athlete not in a game situation. And so they are really looking to see how that athlete can perform in a game so that they will know if that athlete will be able to perform at a higher level for them. Mainly because their lives are dependent on the success of their team at the college level, as different from high school, where they are basically trying to give the athlete a variety of different experiences.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question, and this is if Terry O'Neill's out there or to Adrian. Every plan had custodians coming in on the 12th of November to start the cleaning process. But if we don't even start anything till the 18th of January, it seems like that's a long stretch to have them in there cleaning, that it would be better right before. And I'm just wondering why we would start the 12th of November to start playing in January.
So, you know, we were hopeful that if we just, it was clean, and then as we're transitioning, if we choose the third option, we'll be transitioning 10,000 plus students back, plus trying to transition athletics. And so our thought was to get the buildings ready for athletics. That wouldn't mean that the custodians would have to be there as long. Once they're in, clean the gyms, clean the equipment, then they can exit. So it was just hopeful that we would just be ahead of, for option 3, we would be ahead of the transition of 10,000 students.
Dr. Thurman,
Okay.
I do have a
Okay, Dr. Martin.
Scott, I do appreciate thinking through, because it's kind of like that never-ending list. And I know cheerleading, dance, band are all part of the winter season, but of course that is not inclusive of all the clubs that you were speaking about. But it does include cheerleading, band, and dance. And it does get to a point of like, when do you decide which is which, right? Whether it's an academic club, a chess club, a robotics club, yearbook, I'm sure is still a thing, newspaper, there's certainly all of those things out there. The list could go on and on and on. And so it is a difficult decision as I'm sitting here contemplating myself, because it's also real for some of our seniors who are potentially not going to get the scholarship dollars that they could be potentially counting on. And so that's what weighs, but also, as many of us pointed out, the health and safety of all is equally important in making sure that they are all alive and well to be able to enjoy those scholarship dollars later on. And so it is certainly not an easy decision as I go back and forth, because it's, do you decide one line over the other, one club over another, the health and safety over another? You know, there's so many factors that play into this. That's why Dr. Davis brought it to the board to make a decision. No, just kidding, Dr. Davis.
Yeah, thanks.
But certainly we know we've heard from students directly too. And sometimes when you hear from students directly, it pulls at your heart and mind just to want to hear more and learn more. But at the end, we have to look at all of it to make our own decisions at what we think is best for Ferguson Florissant.
Okay, so now we have to make a decision. So there is a motion on the floor, and at this time, Ms. Heike Janice, would you call for the vote?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Ebert?
Aye.
Mrs. Hogshead?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
No.
Ms. Bush?
You're muted. Okay.
No, I want to stay muted. I am so torn right now. It's not even funny. Can I go last? So motion is for January start for sports. Winter sports is where we're at.
Option 3.
Option 3. Okay. Yes, aye.
Dr. Graves?
No.
Dr. Paul Walker?
No.
Dr. Thurman?
Oh my. So what do we got so far?
It's your vote. It doesn't matter what we have so far.
So am I the deciding vote?
You are.
Yes, ma'am.
No. I have to say no. And that's based on what Mr. Ebert said, and to be fair and equitable.
So when you say no, you mean aye?
I mean, yes. I mean, yes. I mean, aye. Yes. I'm saying no, don't go back. I'm saying yes.
Okay. Then motion carries.
Okay, this was one of the most difficult decisions that the board has had to come up with, and again, we do it out of concern and out of an abundance of caution. We will get through this. To all the boys and girls, young men and young ladies that this affects, I want you to understand that we did not take this. This was very difficult for us.
Donna, can I make one request? I don't think I'm not sure if I missed it or not, but I know for some of those seniors, they have played for their freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And it is my hope that as a district that we will be able to help them get the tape that they need. So
Right.
if we need to spend some hours going back through footage, and we create it for each and every student that needs this footage, because we've made this decision tonight, I definitely think that we need to do our due diligence in making sure each student who needs highlight films, that we will go back for them to kind of capture some of those moments, because having something is better than having nothing.
Yes.
I agree with Courtney, totally.
And to go off of that, certainly Dr. Davis, I know, has the power to enact some of those contracts. I know right now we've said contracts really aren't enacted until we start the season. So certainly if there's anything the administration can do for coaches to at least pay them for some time of their contract to be able to go do some of that footage, certainly I would appreciate that on their behalf. But certainly I know you kind of have that power already in you, but just to kind of say that if we need to look at that option as well, that is something to do as we made the decision now.
Okay. Tough decision, board. And we're going to move on. We're going to discuss our reentry task force update. And this is for board information only. Dr. Jana Parker.
An update on our task force and the work. Good evening, Ferguson Florissant School Board. I apologize, I'm not able to present in person. However, we wanted to make sure we provided an update on our task force and the work we began last week for reentry. The task force is comprised of 6 subcommittees, all led by a member of cabinet. Within those subcommittees, we've worked to make sure all voices were represented: parents, teachers, administrators, and a few students. As you can see here, the 6 subcommittees are as follows: health, safety, and facilities, transportation and meals, teaching and learning, mental health, communication, and staffing and human resources. I should point out, much of this was already in the works prior to the creation of the task force. Here you will see the initial breakdown of our subcommittees and the representation. More members have been added since the initial list were made. When we met as a whole committee last week, we grounded ourselves with these 3 guiding principles. The health, safety, and well-being of the children and adults is paramount. Educational equity will be at the forefront of decision-making. Teachers and staff will prioritize deep, meaningful relationships to create safe learning environments for each child. With the adoption of the Equity Lens resolution at the last board meeting, it was imperative we keep equity in the forefront of our conversations. In addition to our guiding principles, it was important to understand our why and make the connection there is no straight linear path to our final destination of reentry. Instead, recognizing this takes all of us and at times may appear chaotic. However, the final outcome will be a clear, robust plan. Our timeline is quick. As you can see, our ultimate goal is to have our reentry plan finalized and presented to you in December. I would be remiss if I did not mention, while we have January 19th as a target date, we recognize this is a moving target. The reentry plan will ultimately be for whenever we return, regardless of the date. Tomorrow morning, a survey will be sent to all families collecting preliminary data on who is planning to send their student or students for in-person learning or will choose to remain virtual. This will allow us to better plan as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Any discussion from the board on this, as this is just information only? If not,
Bless you.
oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry about that.
You have on a mask, Dr. Thurman.
Pardon me?
You didn't have on a mask.
I did. Okay. Early separation incentive plan. This is for board action. Dr. Philip Boyd.
Good evening, board. Today, the administration has a recommendation regarding an ESIP proposed early separation incentive plan. The next slide. The administration is considering an ESIP to address concerns from staff members who are experiencing physical and emotional challenges due to COVID-19. The ESIP will provide an estimated cost savings to the district, and depending on the number of staff who take advantage, the savings will range from $500,000 to $1.5 million. The ESIP will only be offered in the 2020-2021 school year. The plan will be offered to all current full and part-time employees. Employees must have at least 15 years of total experience in the Ferguson-Florissant School District. The years do not have to be consecutive, meaning that employees that have had a break in service will not be prohibited from taking advantage of the ESIP. Employees must be eligible or meet the criteria for retirement following the public school retirement system or the public education employees retirement system's retirement categories. Employees must submit a signed letter of resignation and intent to separate from the district at the end of the 2020-21 school year. These documents can be turned into the Human Resources Department starting on January 4th, 2021, and must be received no later than January 12th, 2021 at 5 p.m. For employees who meet all requirements, the district is willing to offer the following early incentive separation payments. For 15 to 25 total years of service with the district, they will be eligible for $10,000. For 25 to 29.99 total years, those employees will be eligible for $20,000. For 30 or more total years of service with the district, those employees will be eligible for $30,000. All of these payments will be less the applicable taxes. The payment for part-time employees is the amount listed above and prorated by the percentage of time they work in comparison to a full-time employee. Again, employees must have 15 total years of experience in the Ferguson-Florissant School District. And I think we need to go forward on the slides. Right there. The district will make the separation payment to eligible employees who participate in this program by July 31st, 2021 via direct deposit into the employee's bank account. Employees interested in participating in the ESIP should seek advice of their own lawyer and or their own tax preparer prior to signing the separation agreement and notice of resignation. The payment will be made pursuant to this plan and will be taxed as wages. Are there any questions?
Before we get into the questions, let's do a motion.
I move we accept the ESIP plan.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I know I have a question. So my question is, Mr. Boyd or Dr. Davis, and so I know we had the discussion before about this, is realistically, I understand the reason behind doing it. And I think to me, and when I look long-term financially and at planning of talent management, is there a reason we're still not considering an option to select July 30 or June 30th, 2022? And the reason I raise that again is obviously economics is one of the things I'm looking at from the district, from that committee of money. But my concern is if you have everyone leaving it 1 year, how would talent management line up if everyone took it, being that there could be people who potentially paused their schooling and aren't graduating, if it's a lot of teachers that retire, vacancies already in training, and how do you train people potentially in some of these positions? I assume Dr. Davis would need to fill if it was a key position, and would they have time to train someone new in that position if we don't offer a 2-year option to either select this year or next year while seeing cost savings? I just wonder if we considered that, as I've seen that be successful elsewhere, and would it help with finances and talent management issues as well as people aren't graduating and taking years off school. And I just don't want us to have a whole bunch of people leave this year and then we have a huge vacancy rate that we can't fill if we didn't space it out over 2 years and allow some more options of folks. And I know one of the responses is we can always offer it again, but we don't know what we could offer in the future. And so by giving people options, it allows people some flexibility, and the district some flexibility for recruitment and talent management, particularly given the pandemic is taking a great deal of all of your time and energy right now. If everyone left June 30th, I don't know if the district would be in a place to fill all the positions they need to, instead of over a 2-year time period, to give some flexibility and notice to the district.
Yeah, I think those are really critical considerations, which is why one of the hope for us is that if this ESIP is approved and we have the employees providing the requisite notification by January, then the plan is to start posting and recruiting within a week of making sure that we have those notifications coming in. And I think that if we can start our recruitment process earlier, I think we can address those positions, especially because we know that that means we have some experienced people that will be leaving. If we can recruit ahead of time, then we can do some things differently in terms of transitions, including starting to work with people earlier so that we're not waiting until June 30 or even July to make sure that we have people in place and that we have training in place. I think that what we have to do is we have to think differently about what it means to bring people in and prepare people for the next year. And also we have to think differently about what that professional development relationship needs to be. I know it can be difficult sometimes when we think about people trying to complete a school year, but I think also if you could start some conversations earlier with candidates that are coming in, some that are going to be experienced, because typically we don't just have all new teachers. In what I mean by new, brand new, newly minted teachers. We also have some teachers coming in with anywhere from 5 to 8 years of experience as well. But if we start early enough, I think we can create a much better opportunity for us to work with people and also fill those gaps that would possibly come from the number of people that might leave under this plan.
Thank you, Mr. I guess I don't want to keep diving on this point, but I would like us to push that January is also the time potentially we're going to be coming back to school. And so we're then going to ask staff to work even more than they're already working to prepare to do additional training in new terms. So while I appreciate the response, I still have a fear that there's a lot of unknowns ahead in January and beyond. And I don't know how much more room anyone has on their current plate, including your own department, of adding additional recruitment. I guess my question goes to either you or Dr. Davis of what harm would it be to cause to offer a 2-year option, either to retire at the June 30th, 2021 or June 30th, 2022, to kind of alleviate some of those recruitment issues and all of that, all focused in a short time period when we're going to be potentially returning to school for the first time since March and going to have a lot of other things on people's plate that I don't know how much staff, and I'm not working there, to know how much more room people have on their plates to take on any additional trainings, recruitments, this, that, and that all this year. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, Laura can probably weigh in some too with the financial part of it. You know, what we've been doing is looking at our budget overall. The 2-year, you know, we could consider some things going into next year, and it may make sense to do some of that now. But what we do know is that most of the folks on the list, so we have a list of folks who would be eligible. The majority of them would be teachers, and certainly, as Philip was saying, we'd have to do some recruiting and so forth. Every year, we always have turnover anyway. We have 75 to 100 folks every year that we go through this process and hire new people. So there will be some lifting. I don't know if it would be an inordinate amount. It could be, depends on how many. And so that really will determine what direction we go in. How many of those folks who are eligible would take advantage of that incentive? And so from there, we would know. And, you know, Laura, you may want to speak a little bit to the financial part of it. Like, you know, 2 years out versus 1 year out, how would that impact this plan altogether? I'm not opposed to a 2-year look, but I also want to consider the financial implications of it.
I don't think it would, I thought I was frozen. I don't think it would impact us any differently, Dr. Davis, because 2 years, we know that we're going to be impacted next year financially too with, you know, right now we're impacted with our budget, but we're also going to be impacted next year as well. So I feel that if we know this year that we're going to see a savings over the next few years, strategically long term, then it really wouldn't impact us any differently, you know, as far as 2 years versus 1 year.
The only thing that worries me is, so let's just say if we have 100 people, I'm just using that number, it's actually more than that, but if we had 100 people that are eligible, and when we offer the 2-year piece, well, you know, you may have 75 who decide they're going to do it next year versus this year. And so would it be worth the, you know, the move this year? And it could be, because what we do know is that to improve a reserve, it takes years to do that over time. So you have to be slow, methodical, but also intentional. You know, so again, I'm open to a 2-year piece. I don't know if our attorneys have any thoughts there.
The only other thing I'll say is if we did do a 2-year piece, we might be able to pick up a little bit more people that are going to be eligible next year as opposed to this year. They might not be, because on that list, there were some people that were really close. So we could pick up a few more, you know, some more people, but.
And I'd like to look at that number. I mean, the recommendation before you now is a 1 year, but if we could come back with an additional recommendation, maybe, I don't know, with the 2-year piece, but I'd like to know those numbers before throwing that 2-year piece in, because we know what the numbers are with the current recommendation. And here's the other piece that I think is important for everyone to hear is, you know, so if we have 100 people, for example, and that's just an example, you know, everybody may not take that incentive. And if you don't have so many doing it, it wouldn't be worth the move, right? Or the work. So I would want to look at the data a little bit deeper with the 2-year piece before bringing that forward than with what we have in front of you tonight.
And I think Lisa's on, and I think she did say it's better to do 1 year at a, well, not to do, well, I'll let you say it, Lisa.
I am actually, Julie is back on for this part too. So I don't know if she'll turn her camera on or, yeah. So I do believe that 2-year was more complicated. Julie, you want to add to that?
Sure. I mean, you know, the 2-year is possible. It is more complicated for tax reasons. Our tax folks prefer that an employee accept the plan and receive the money in the same year. It's easier for tax reasons for that purpose. And you know, certainly if you do 1 year at a time, you can assess the financial impact after year one. I want to be careful about making any kind of promises or commitments to anyone about a year two based on sort of financial, without knowing the full financial situation of the district. So I just want to be careful that we are not promising anything that, you know, that we don't know if we can do or not. So, you know, I think if we're talking about a 2 year, I'm more comfortable saying, well, we're going to do the first year and we may do it a second year. If we're going to commit to a second year, I would really want to make sure that that plan is very well fleshed out and more detailed than it is right now.
So I guess to Dr. Davis's point, I guess to me, I'd just be curious to know how many more people would eventually capture, because as your point, Dr. Davis, that if we don't get enough people for this, it wouldn't be worth the value. And once we offer it, we can't say, oh, we're not offering it because only 10 people took it. And so I'd really be curious to see how many more it would be, because I want to make sure we're strategic, because I do know when I reach my retirement age, if I was only a year away from it, I would probably maybe think about it more than just staying longer. So I would just be curious to know from a financial standpoint, how many more, because really I want to make sure we're not offering something and then it comes back and says, well, this actually didn't really benefit us because it wasn't the right positions or wasn't the right number of positions or wasn't the right dollar amount. And we only saved $10,000, whatever the number may be. And so I would just be curious to know kind of what that 2 year thing would be. And I guess I have a question for Julie on that. Julie, I guess, what is the difference between if payment and agreement are not in the same year? How is that a tax issue?
It's something we can work out. I think the question of when the tax liability occurs, is it occur when you accept or is it occur when you pay? And there can be a little bit of confusion about that. So it's not something that's insurmountable to, you know, for ease and the easiest way and most straightforward way to do it. If the employee accepts the plan and is paid for the plan in the same year, there is no doubt either on behalf of the district or the employee where that tax liability, what year that tax liability falls in.
Thank you. And also to your point, Julie, I appreciate, I too am never in favor of like, well, we might offer something later on, because there's always the hope of like next year's will be bigger. Or I think if the board wants to do 2 year for Dr. Davis to bring back data, or if we want to do the 1 year, whatever, I think we have to make, to me, I'd want to make one decision, whether it's 2 years or 1 year, not say we might look at offering this, but I also don't want to offer something that's not financially going to benefit us if there's not enough people, and we won't know that until it's actually offered. So that's why for me, I would really like to see a 2 year, how many people that would capture to make sure we can reach that number that's actually going to be financially smart for the district.
Well, I'd like to add in here, I probably am being repetitive, but I've been through many of these buyouts with my company at AT&T. And there are 1,000 scenarios we could go through. How about a 3 year? How about 4 years and 5 years? You could do so many things. You could poll people to see what would make them leave. You could do, I'm sorry, but it's true. You could do so many different things. I trust Dr. Davis and his team, and I'll just say that the 1 year always, at least from my corporate viewpoint and what I've experienced, has always been the route they've taken, because of the scenario, even Julie bringing up and other things, which is you never know what the future is. We know what we have right now. It might be a a less of a deal in next year, or no deal, or a better deal, or it could be no deal for the next, I don't know, 5-10 years. In fact, I'll just say this, that this year we were offered a deal that hasn't been offered in 30 years, but it was offered 30 years ago. So, I mean, if you were waiting 30 years ago, you didn't take it and you were waiting, well, I guess you finally got it 30 years later. But I'm just saying we could go on and on with the scenarios here, but I'm 100% behind Laura and what you did, Dr. Davis. And I say we go forward and chips lie where they lie, we learn through our decisions and we learn through our offers even. And what'll happen will happen. I can't see, even if we don't get the amount we'd like to have, I don't see it as a huge cost hit to us either way. So, but like I said, scenarios, every board member could draw up a scenario and submit it to you and see what sounds good, because there's 1,000 of different scenarios you could go through. And I've seen so many, I could probably write 10 of them. I really could. I've seen, and all of you who have friends in the corporate world probably have seen the same thing. There are so many different variables and things like that. So,
okay, at this point,
I've got one quick question, Dr. Is there what's that magic number that we're looking for this to be beneficial for the district? I didn't catch that part.
Laura,
I can say that. If we had 48 staff, we would save about $668,000. If we had 135 staff, it'd be $2 million. So, and then, if we had 79 people, it'd be $1 million. So 80 people, or if there were 68 people, it'd be 982,000. So really, we would hope to save at least 500,000. So at least 48 staff members.
And so I was wondering, just kind of going back off of what Kevin was saying, I just know that right now, this time is making that as a major change and shift. That is going to be a lot. And I do worry about filling all of these positions. And I'm wondering, what if we did a cap where we know if our magic number is 48, say our cap is 50, and then after we get that 50, then anybody else can have that opportunity to do it for the next year. But I just thinking, if we did have a mass leave, that can be detrimental to the district.
We've had people, 100 a year leave. That's something that we were used to. And I think, like Dr. Davis said earlier, the sooner we know, the more time we have to fill those positions. I'm not real concerned about that. If we can get an early start on it.
Yeah, we have a lot of folks who have been affected by COVID-19, albeit personally or right in their families. And quite frankly, I think we're probably going to have some of that anyway. I do wonder, Philip, how many people each year, how many new teachers? We normally fill all of our positions. So I'm just wondering about every year when we start school, at what percentage do we get those positions filled? And then how many positions do we, just an average of how many do we fill each year anyway?
Depending on the year, anywhere from 50 to 75 new teachers that we have to recruit. And depending upon the year, we range anywhere from 15 to 5% of positions filled, by the time we get to the beginning of August. This year, we had 99% of our positions filled by the time we got to the first day of school. And that was the best we've had in the last 2-3 years.
Do we have any teacher vacancies right now, just out of curiosity?
We do have a teacher vacancy. I think we're at 2 teacher vacancies right now. The other vacancies that we had, we actually were able to fill internally based upon where we were with enrollment.
And not to belabor the point, Dr. Paula Thurman, just one question from Dr. Davis from Mr. Boyd. I assume we're going to examine each of these open positions to see if we need to fill them. I know Mr. Boyd said we'll post them right away, but I just want to make sure that we're going to examine to make sure we actually need to fill these positions before we post.
No, that's a great point. Every year we do staffing sessions with every school. I personally meet with Dr. Boyd, some of his team, the principal supervisors. We look at enrollment. That's always the driver, and we make decisions based on the enrollment. It has to be that way, and where we can, because that's where you're gonna get your best savings is with positions, right? The people. You can't save enough pencils and erasers to really, appreciate a savings. And so every year we look at every position. Do we need to? Can we, adjust some teaching positions from one school to another to maximize? And I think we've done a pretty decent job. And I think our teachers could probably attest to this, especially in the K-2 schools, where we've kept those class sizes pretty low, 17, 18, 19 kindergartners, first graders, and so on. So absolutely, we'll look at every position and look at enrollment and whether or not we need to fill that position based on that enrollment.
Do we have, I know some of the positions are difficult in the high school level to get, like industrial tech. Do we have an opening in that? Do we have enough all the required staff that we need?
Mm-hmm. The industrial tech is going to be one of those areas that, one of the issues with industrial tech is that more and more colleges of education are not offering that, unfortunately, even though it is still a significant part of the secondary curriculum. So what we've had to try to do is to recruit all over the state to try to get those positions filled. It's very, very difficult. And for certain critical positions, especially in science and math, I would say that we are never wrong about our efforts to recruit science and math. We never have too many math or science teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, is it possible if the board approves this tonight that we would get a list at the end of like which ones left and which ones were refilled or repurposed, just so we can see the true cost savings long-term later on?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Right. Thank you. I'm done with questions, Donna, I promise.
Oh, that's okay. We need to.
And I would just add, just out of a little bit of humor, a little levity here, industrial tech, I always laugh at, Paul Morris he's probably one of the last pioneers in industrial tech, but
right.
It's difficult, because of technologies and so forth. While there's a need, there aren't as many, folks who are, certified. So sometimes building from within by recruiting and getting folks to go back and get those certifications can be helpful. And that's what we've done, even with some of our PLTW as well, is some of our current teachers have gone back and we've paid for them to get that training so that they would have those certifications as well.
Okay, are we ready to call for the vote? Please go ahead.
Mr. Ebert?
Aye.
Mrs. Hogshead?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
No.
Ms. Bush?
Aye.
Dr. Graves?
Aye.
Dr. Paul Walker?
Aye.
Dr. Thurman?
Aye. Thank you. Our next topic is policy 1021, the professional development committee policy revision, and Liz Davenport. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm